College students in the United States are taking to their campuses. They're protesting Israel's ongoing war in Gaza, and they're calling on universities to divest and to sever all ties to Israel. This wave of protests began after students at Columbia University set up a Gaza solidarity encampment on April 18th, following the university president's congressional testimony about anti-Semitism on campus. School officials called in the police, who arrested more than 100 pro-Palestinian protesters. Dozens of students were suspended and evicted from university housing. Maryam Alwan is a student at Columbia University and one of the lead organizers with Students for Justice in Palestine. She joins us now. Maryam, so good to see you. Welcome to UpFront.
Good to see you, too. Thank you for having me.
Maryam, you were one of over 100 student protesters that were arrested on Columbia's campus, and you've also been suspended as a consequence of protesting. Can you talk to me about what happened on April 18th?
So that whole morning, we were anxious, awaiting the police because the school had threatened to call them. We just weren't sure when they would come. And then we also were confused because normally the president is supposed to consult with the university senate before calling the police onto campus. And we later found out that they did not approve the presence of police on campus. In any case, we received word through allies in the administration that the police were coming. And so we all got into the middle of our encampment. We locked arms, began chanting and singing. And then they came on suddenly all at once, and they started picking us off one by one and taking us to the corrections vans. And even when we were going to the precinct, we were continually chanting as we were going in to take our mugshots. It was as if the protest never ended. So the sense of community made the whole experience feel a little bit better than it could have been.
Now, this experience isn't totally new to you all. You're part of Students for Justice in Palestine. You guys were banned from campus last year, and you've said before that you faced consequences for standing up on this issue. How surprised are you, or not surprised are you, by the university's response to your protests and to the demonstrations that are going on?
It feels like it's a Palestinian exception to free speech. Columbia has continually violated their own policies. With regards to the suspension of SJP and JVP in the fall semester, we have a student governing board. We have so many protocols in place to handle student groups if they violate policies. But Columbia did not go through any of this when it suspended us. It made a unilateral decision and blasted it to the press. And here we are again with the president unilaterally calling the cops on her own students, taking over 100 of them out in zip ties due to some sort of safety concern, when the police chief himself said that there was no safety concern that he could see. There was no clear and present danger. The only danger really is for their investments that they want to keep funding.
In addition to the spread of student activism across the country following the arrests at Columbia, faculty have spoken out against the university's response. They've even joined in with student protesters. What's it been like to see that level of support from faculty?
It's incredible. It shows that we're a united front. And really, we are a united front in this because they are also being subject to this McCarthyist campaign that is, encroaching on their academic freedom and trying to get them fired from their jobs, just as our school is cracking down on us with disciplinary measures. So it's really important and means a lot.
You talked earlier about the police chief saying that there was no unsafe conditions, that there were no safety concerns that warranted police intervention. But people are raising concerns about safety. There have been reports of violence at protests, the use of anti-Semitic rhetoric, harassment. Some Jewish students have said that they feel unsafe on campus and they've been targeted by protesters. Some have even left campus because they say they feel unsafe. And of course, university administrators are in this interesting position where they have to toe the line between allowing for free speech, but also addressing student safety concerns. What do you make of all this?
I think that with every social movement, there are detractors, but we stand for human rights and equality for all people. In fact, our leadership is multi-religious and led by many Jewish people. We just recently held a Seder celebration. And I think that, frankly, government officials and the media are overblowing some things and sowing mass hysteria in order to manufacture consent to genocide and find an excuse to stifle our movement and enact violence upon us. Of course, there are detractors in the movement that will try to infiltrate, but I think that the majority of the movement is extremely peaceful, and that's not what we stand for. And we've gone to great lengths to try to establish community guidelines and make sure that everyone adheres to them. There have been outside protests outside of the campus gates, and I think that's the majority of what has been going on, has been out there. But inside, you walk around and you see people peacefully chatting and reading on the lawn. And I think the fact that the president made classes online for the rest of the semester only is playing into this mass fear and hyper paranoia.
A mass grave with more than 300 bodies was uncovered at Nasser Hospital in southern Gaza this week. A similar mass grave was recently reported at Shifa Hospital following Israel's troops' departure, prompting the UN to call for an independent investigation. Now, the U.S. media has been focusing a lot of attention on the protests and concerns over school policy and concerns about free speech and anti-Semitism on campus, all of which are important. But do you feel like the media is engaging with the substance of what you're actually protesting for, which is Israel's continued assault on Gaza?
I feel that they are not engaging with what we are trying to bring attention to in the first place. We've had this issue from the beginning of the genocide. Every time we talk to the news, they tend to hyperfixate on our safety or, the campus situation. We began this encampment on the day of the congressional hearing conflating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism in an effort to redraw attention to divestment, our demands, and the situation in Gaza. And now, a week later, we've seen that instead of talking about the literal mass graves that are being uncovered as we speak, they are still making it about anti-Semitism on campus and things like this, which is incredibly frustrating because the whole reason we are out here in the first place, the whole reason we are willing to risk arrest and sleep in the cold and sleep in the rain is because we know we can't stand by any longer as our money is funding this, and we want our government and our school to wake up. So it's disheartening to see.
What outcomes do you expect from this? What do you hope to achieve from these demonstrations and from this kind of long-term resistance on campus?
We hope to achieve our demands, first and foremost, of divestment and amnesty for students. But beyond that, we're creating a sense of community on this campus. We're reclaiming our education. We've been having teach-ins. People have been bringing food and meeting each other and mingling on the lawns. It's been really beautiful to see. And just educating people about the Palestinian struggle. These are going to be the future leaders in our country. And I think that's also why the establishment and the elites are so scared, because they know that if people see Palestinians as human now, they might, when they take positions of power, they might be able to make change in that regard. So I think there's a lot going on here, and I'm very proud of what we're doing.
Maryam, thank you so much for joining me on UpFront.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you.
You too. All right, everybody, that is our show. UpFront, we'll be back